Dr. Brett here. I'm with Dr. Rachel again, and we're going to talk about testing today. And testing from a functional medicine perspective is something people always ask questions about, just because it's something that people know, like if I'm going to see somebody about an issue, they're going to have to try to figure out what's going on with me. So I guess, like, what's kind of the main approach to testing to start with people?
So for the majority of people, we start with a big comprehensive blood panel. What kind of makes it different is kind of three different things. So first would be how much we test. So you go to your primary care, you do yearly physical, whatever it may be, they'll do kind of a CBC, a CMP, maybe a cholesterol panel, things like that. And all that gives great information, but you can get tons more information when you add more. So usually I add anywhere from 20 to 30 more markers, and then that and all that information kind of really gives me a wide lens view into the patient. So is it GI issues? Is it adrenals, thyroid? Is there nutrient deficiencies? How well is your liver working, kidneys working? Is there toxicity, blood sugar control, all kinds of wide lens, different things looking into the body. So that gives tons of information. Another thing that kind of makes it different and how I approach it that is different is kind of look at it as a puzzle. So instead of just seeing one marker that's off and saying, oh, maybe you have a kidney issue, or oh, blood sugar is weird, how do those interconnect?
Yep.
Where are the consistencies? Does one affect the other, and does one explain the other, and
Gotcha.
how do they all work?
So more pieces help make a better puzzle.
Yeah,
at
so
that point in time. More complete puzzle.
our body systems all communicate to each other. They all work together, and not only do we have to treat our body that way, but we also have to assess our body that way. So that's kind of the second difference. And then the third difference, which is a really important one, would be that we use optimal ranges. So instead of standard ranges, which I like to call kind of your surviving range, we as functional medicine doctors use optimal ranges. So there's lots of research where healthy people actually fall and feel good. So we use those ranges, and that's why lots of times people, quote unquote, everything looks normal,
Gotcha.
they get that answer, and then you put it into the optimal range and it's not normal anymore.
Not normal,
and it gives a lot more answers. So those are kind of the three main differences about our blood panels and kind of where we always start with everybody.
Gotcha. So it's a true functional approach versus like just a static number you're looking at then at that point.
Yeah.
Like, what other additional type tests do some people do beyond just like that the main basic core foundation?
The testing world is huge, so I could list 20 of them, but I'll kind of hit some of the main ones that I use and that I have seen with patients. So first off, I'd say the most important or the most popular specialty testing is a stool test. One of my favorites, actually, too. Yeah, lovely. And so we can use that with, of course, patients that have GI issues, but then also people that have autoimmunities, skin issues, hormone imbalances, different things like that. And if their history suggests some sort of GI issue or GI dysfunction, we always like to look at stool tests because like we talk about in functional medicine all the time, lots of things start in the GI tract.
Yep.
And when you start to heal that, then all things fall into place. So
Gotcha.
stool test would be a big one. Adrenal cortisol testing, so adrenal glands, we kind of talked about this in another video, but all that stress response has such an impact downstream. So when we can start to look at the adrenal glands and what cortisol is doing throughout the day, that can give a lot of good information. Hormone testing, so hormones are very downstream effect. When we see like sex hormone things going wrong, that's very downstream.
Yep.
So I don't always start with hormone testing. Sometimes, obviously depends on the patient, but there's lots of times things we can fix upstream that will affect the downstream hormone effects, but hormone testing can be very, very helpful. And then I'd say another two main ones would be mold and heavy metals. So different tests, separate tests, but those are kind of our two main toxins.
Just to see if people have exposure to it.
Yeah, especially if their history was, it even could be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, or metal fillings, different things like that can cause all kinds of toxicity in the body. And if you have a slow detox system, then we can see that really cause all sorts of weird issues.
So one I comes to mind with me is like food sensitivity. I get people to ask all the time, like, I think I'm sensitive to this or that or whatever. Like, what's your perspective with food sensitivity?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a gray area with food sensitivity. People hear about it all the time. It's on commercials and you can order it.
It's trendy.
Yeah, it's a great word. Yeah, it's very trendy. And so I get asked about it all the time. I don't run it a ton, because it is not a gold standard. So the research is kind of mixed on it. It's not a gold standard. The elimination diet can be way better than that, but I definitely use it on some patients. kind of depends what's going on. It's very individualized, depends on the patient,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not a go-to every time for everybody. It can be very helpful, but again, their research is a little bit mixed, so it's not always.
Gotcha. It's a tool, but you don't necessarily use it all the time.
Yeah,
something
and
like that.
And if you have all kinds of food sensitivities, it's telling me that you've got a GI imbalance in the first place, and we need to start focusing on the gut. So
Gotcha.
there's a reason your body's mad at all of these foods. It doesn't
Yep.
just happen. So
Yep.
it's
So
got to look more upstream. Again.
with all this, because it sounds like testing is crazy broad, and there's a lot of stuff going on with it. Like, so you sit down with somebody, go through their stuff with them, and based upon that, you're going to kind of hand pick what specific things would make sense to be doing testing with them.
Exactly.
So basically, that first visit is just designed to gain that information, that knowledge from them.
Yeah, and we're talking about testing today and how we find answers through testing, but yeah, that initial visit where we sit down for an hour and a half gives just as much information about what's going on, and then where to direct testing. So they're both really important pieces.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the information.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys learned that testing is a critical thing. Again, get your consultation scheduled with her, sit down, find out kind of what's going on, and find out how many of these beautiful tests that would make sense for you. So we'll catch you soon.
Thanks.